Well, that was frustrating as we have another tough one on the second night of a back-to-back. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers postgame alongside Derek Bodner. I'm Devon Givens. Kyle Neubeck will join from the arena in a little bit. Brianna here producing. All of you also frustrated in the comments section already joining us. We have a lot to get into. Some really good, some really bad, and some even more ugly as we break this one down. Sixers fall again to the Memphis Grizzlies here tonight, 115-109 after having a 12-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. Looked like, okay, the Grizzlies are probably going to make a run, but the Sixers, the way that they were playing, maybe can hold on to this one and come up with the victory, pick up their 36th win of the season. Instead, we're now talking about 2 nights, 2 losses to 2 teams where you had an opportunity to win the game. They did not do that, and a lot of frustration to go with this one. We have a lot of people to point the finger at. Some good performances as well. We'll talk about those. Those will not be ignored. But, Derek, this one, as we sat here and finished watching the fourth quarter all together, all 3 of us, Rihanna, yourself, and me here, that one, the way that they collapsed there was bad.
Yeah, and this is the kind of game where you come in and you look at who's out for both teams. And it's just a who's who of pretty much everyone you would reckon. Like, if a casual fan were asked about these 2 teams, the people they would know off the top of their heads are the ones who missed this game. It is, again, both sides, best players. It is hospital Sixers versus hospital Grizzlies. So you come in thinking, no, there's no way I can leave tonight frustrated. There's no way I can get my heart broken with this squad. Oh, yeah, there is. When you have a 12-point lead coming into the fourth quarter and you find a way to lose, meanwhile, your $39 million man is, 3 for 11 for 8 points, 9 points? I don't even know. It doesn't really matter. There's no real meaningful distinction
3 for 12
between
for
those.
8. And
to be frustrated, to be sad, to be annoyed and angry when you come in without Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and Covington and Max and Melton, that was tough to do, and they accomplished that. So hats off to them. I give them credit for that.
Look, to go back to Sunday now, where we had the post game, Derek had the day off, but the way the Sixers played to get that win on the road against a very good Dallas Mavericks team, and then to go into Monday, having the day off, feeling good about the prospects of maybe, just maybe, finding a way to have a 2-game at minimum, taking 2 out of 3 when you face the Brooklyn Nets on the road, and then coming back home on that second night of a back-to-back against the Memphis Grizzlies. 2 really good opportunities to at least take one of them, to again take 2 of 3 and maintain what you need to try to stay pace on that 8-win, maybe 10-win pace of what Derek talked about when we looked at the 23 games that they had. But to lose in the fashion that they did in Brooklyn and here at home against the Memphis Grizzlies, when I left the arena, they were up. And I'm like, hey, this game, they might win this one. We know how hard Memphis fights. They don't quit. They don't give up. But the Sixers were matching that.
They don't quit and they don't give up, but they've lost 5 out of 6 and 14 of the last 17. Like, you can only praise their fight so much when they don't have the talent to almost ever score more points than their opponent, and they give up 37 points to that squad who have the worst offense in the league right out of the gate.
Yeah, but look, again, the Sixers matched it. That's my point.
Yeah.
They were matching it and not just saying, let's lay down and let this team do what they do and then we'll come back and win. Because you know what they did? The Sixers, they jumped on them early, Memphis did, 37-31. And they were hitting every shot imaginable in that first quarter. They got off to an 11-3 start. The Sixers then made a little bit of a run, but the Grizzlies fought right back and gave them another run and then eventually took that lead going into the second quarter, 37-31. But the Sixers bounced back. Philadelphia did on their home floor. They go into halftime with an 8-point advantage saying, okay, all right. They see something here. They know this team is going to swing and keep swinging, and then when they fall to the mat, they're going to get right back up. And even in the third quarter, they did the same thing. The Sixers had a 12-point advantage. And so they give up 37 in the first quarter. The Sixers then respond and do their part. They put up 33. They take the third quarter with 29-25. Memphis then goes and wins by 18 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And Derek, it wasn't even close, as you said, as we were sitting there on the couch watching the game. It wasn't even that close as they missed layups. They blew layups. They blew more layups. They missed more layups. And they turned the basketball over and did not defend well enough. And then to combat that, as Paul Reed had a decent game tonight. He had a double-double. He fouls out. There was no rim protection, no resistance in the paint as the Grizzlies were attacking the basket. And as you said it earlier, there are names that are not there on the floor. No Ja Morant, no Desmond Bane to attack the paint as a point guard to get to the basket. And oh, by the way, they started with no point guard tonight. They had all wings and a big man in Jaren Jackson Jr., who was the best player on the floor in totality tonight. I thought Kelly Oubre was really good also. He had his moments, but I thought he was really good in general. Jaren Jackson Jr., 30 points and 11 rebounds with 6 block shots, and he shot 10 for 25. So, folks, he really battled and kept battling, but the Grizzlies just never went away. They never gave up, and they saw an opportunity that the Sixers left open for them, and they took advantage. This one was frustrating.
You were sitting there going, they missed layups, they missed layups, they missed layups, and I thought you were glitching. I thought, have you ever watched Westworld or anything like that? I thought you were a robot glitching. I'm like, is Devon actually a host here? Well, he is a host, but a different kind. Anyway, we're off track. Yeah, I don't. And look, again, losing to this Memphis squad who stinks and missing all their good players. But you get that because the Sixers without Embiid and Maxey kind of stink too. And you're on a back-to-back. Like I said, it was real hard for me to get frustrated and angry. I'm angry really at one person, and that's Tobias. And I didn't know he could let me down, but gosh, here we are again. And I'm angry about the fourth quarter. Through 3 quarters, I was generally pretty happy with their effort. I was pretty happy with their focus. I don't know if it was tired legs on a back-to-back that got them in the fourth quarter. I don't know if they just started missing stuff, and because of that, they started playing hero ball. It seemed like the ball movement dropped a lot there in the fourth. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was really tough to watch. And this was another one, just like last night, where you're sitting there going, here's one that's right there for the taking. You need to get some of these wins. To try to avoiding the play-in seems more and more unlikely by the day. This is one that could have stemmed the tide, and you just needed Tobias Harris to be competent. And he was This almost sounds like hyperbole because we've said it like 18 times this year. This might have been the worst game of Tobias Harris' Sixers career just because of the competition, getting cooked by LaRavia to start the game, not being able to take anyone, people that I don't even know their names of. You couldn't take anyone off the dribble. You could not get a quality shot against really, it felt like any matchup. And it's just like, what is going on here? It is astounding. And look, Tobias has always been a frustrating player.
Sure.
He's never lived up to that contract. He's always been overrated by some, including by the Sixers brain trust that acquired him and then gave him that contract. He's never been this bad. This is so far and away the worst he has ever been in a Sixers uniform, to the point where you just have no idea what you're going. Like, the only time he's consistent is when he has like a 5 or 6 game stretch where he sucks. And anytime he has a good stretch, you know it's short-lived because he's going right back to that bad place.
This is after 31 against Charlotte in that win last Friday. The Dallas game on Sunday on the road, 28 that he gave you, and 18 last night, where he did shoot 50% from the floor and grab 9 rebounds. 4 assists wasn't all his fault. You thought that there were some other opportunities maybe for him to close out the game and help them get the victory. Tonight, he stinks it up with 35 minutes played, 8 points, as Derek talked about, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and only 1 turnover. But just the 8 points that, again, have single digits once again in a game like this against the opponent in the moment. As Derek said, this one might be one of the worst of his career in the Sixers uniform. It was the opponent in the moment where they needed him to show up in this one and pull them through after what happened on the road in Brooklyn last night. He needed to dig deep and find a way to pull through to get this team over the hump and give them a victory. And part of that also, as we mentioned, the fact that they are in this spot now where they are battling with New York, Miami, Orlando, Indiana. Oh, by the way, Orlando wins again their 5th straight. So they are firmly in front of the Sixers right now as they are dropping into the play-in tournament at the moment. 20 games now remaining on the season, and they had to find a way to pull out of this rut that they are in over these last 2 games. Yes, on a back-to-back, but guess what? NBA teams play on back-to-back, and you still have, if you want to argue, Jaren Jackson Jr. is the best player because he's an all-star level player, Team USA player as well. Tobias Harris is supposed to be the second best on that floor. He was not. Kelly Oubre was the best Sixer out there on the floor. Paul Reed was probably the second best player on the floor. Jeff Dowtin, we'll get to him a little bit later, and some of the others. Tobias Harris needed to find a way again. We keep saying this over and over and over again, but as Derek pointed out, this was arguably his worst game in the uniform because of the moment the team needed him to pull them through this one and get the victory. He did not. He fell way short on that, just like his shots did. Missed layups, missed opportunities, once again, against players that you saw opportunities and moments where he needed to be very, very aggressive and get them a bucket to stop the bleeding in that fourth quarter. He was unable to do that, just like he was in Brooklyn last night. The numbers were decent last night for Tobias Harris, but he had a missed fadeaway, tough fadeaway, where he should have taken the player to the basket and got a better look. And tonight, much of the same in this one, as he did not pull them through, only finishing with single digits against the Memphis Grizzlies. Unacceptable.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very frustrating.
It was very frustrating.
To your point, like they have a very tough schedule coming up here. When you sit here and you go, oh man, how did they fall to the 7th or 8th seed? It's nights like tonight. It's not losing the tough games. It's not having an overall losing record without Embiid because you knew that was going to happen. It's these winnable games against terrible competition that you were up in late and you just found a way to blow it. And it was, both teams came out shooting real hot. I think the Sixers made like 7 threes in the first quarter. I think Memphis made 6. And
this was after Memphis was 4 for 6 to start, where the Sixers were okay.
And you just knew, all right, that's not going to sustain itself. What else can you do to win? Can you do ball movement? Can you get extra possessions? Can you defend your ass off? And it turns out the Sixers did none of those 3, especially in the fourth quarter. Very, very, very. Like you mentioned, Tobias, and comparing him to Jaren Jackson Jr., Tobias was nowhere near.
No.
Not just in terms of the productivity. Like Jaren Jackson Jr. shot 10 for 25. He wasn't having a great night in terms of efficiency.
But he didn't give up.
But he tried.
He didn't give up.
He tried to make an imprint on the game. I did not want any point see Tobias Harris try to make an imprint on this game. I just don't, like when you're sitting there and you're starting campaign, how do you not try? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And just the deferring and giving the ball up to some of his other teammates when it clearly saw the moment. And we've talked about this where I've said it in the past, hey, guys, and I've gotten yelled at for this, and maybe this is a good opportunity for you to yell at me now, but I don't think so for this game because Derek might yell at me, but this is where you call for the basketball. This is where you assert yourself as the best player on your team. If Jaren Jackson Jr. is doing his part, you need to show up. And Paul Reed was doing his best to defend that guy. Yeah. And Tobias needed to do something on the other side. Sure, you have some really good athletes on the other side and decent basketball players with Vince Williams, who's a nice player. Coming off the bench, G.G. Jackson. These are 2 guys that we talked about last night when trying to preview this game, saying they have guys who are fighting for their NBA lives, trying to stay in the NBA. And they have a day off, and they're going to come out here on this floor in Philadelphia after beating Brooklyn in a similar fashion on Monday, the way that they came back in the second half and took down the Nets. They had the day off, and they were going to come in here ready to play. They put up 37. The Sixers responded with their second and third quarters, going up by 12, heading into the fourth quarter. Again, not giving up. So when Tobias Harris is playing against these guys, yes, they have length. They are young. They are youthful. They have their athleticism. That is a bit of a challenge for Tobias Harris. He's going to have to give a little bit more to get what he needs against these particular players. But to go 3 for 12, sure, you give credit for some defensive matchups where Williams or Jackson or Aldama plays a particular possession against Tobias Harris. Well, you say, hey, good defense by that player. But there are also moments where you look at the offensive player when we look at his offensive skill set and say, you bailed them out and you let your team down by not doing enough there to take that guy, put him in the blender, put him in the weight room, if you will, and show why you are the veteran. They are the young guys still, yes, fighting, but still don't have enough to dig deep enough to stop whatever you have in your bag to prevent you from scoring that basketball. And that's what we saw far too often tonight. We saw the same thing against Brooklyn, and now they're about to really go into the guts of a really tough schedule, going with the home game against New Orleans on what's that, Friday night? Home game against New Orleans on Friday. But then it gets really, really nasty for the Sixers as we start to, again, look ahead to what their schedule is going to be. And just to kind of run it off quickly here as we talk about Memphis, 2 against the Knicks in New York, both Sunday and Tuesday. Milwaukee, sure, you have the Hornets in back here in Philadelphia, but then you go Miami, and then you're back on the road once again for that 4-game road trip. Phoenix, LA, both LA teams, and the Kings. Not a good stretch here right now for the Sixers. We'll get into more in just a bit, but as I try to vent and get all of this stuff off of my chest, I got to tell you about some other things that you may be able to use a product to get some things off of you. Hey, top of the evening to you all as we have this episode brought to you by the St. Patrick's Day Shamrock Shavers, our good friend from Manscaped. Yes, we told you about them last night. They came through for us. They'll come through for you because this year, don't just chase those rainbows. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun once again with the leaders in the below-the-kilt care. Sure, again, we talked about how it's starting to warm up in our area, springtime. So as you do that, maybe go out and you go for a little run, you play some sports, whatever you're doing, you go to the gym. Get a little sweaty. You might say, hey, I need to stop a little bit of the sweat, make it a little easier on myself. Well, hey, I got the right place for you. Say goodbye to your Clover Forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0. And this one right here, the Ultra. Yes, let your confidence shine bright. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. I'm one of those 10 million men. Head over to manscaped.com and use the code PHLY for 20% off. Plus free shipping. Every free shipping is lovely around this time, anytime. Absolutely. So look, ever since I've started using Manscaped, I can proudly say I found my pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Just letting you know, you could too. The trimmer comes with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blades, heads, one for a classic trim, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Yeah, so if you had issues in the past and you say, you know what, I've had some trouble with the whatever equipment you had, trying to, maneuver around those lower regions, and you want to make sure you have something much better, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is great for you. And again, you want to stay smooth. Maybe your loved one, she wants you to stay smooth as well. Then this is the spot for you. Manscaped has you covered. Also, trimming the hedges in your Irish garden isn't just below the belt. Complete your look with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit plus Handyman Electric Face Shaver. Whether you're sculpting your beard, you see mine is pretty clean right now, or whatever beard I do have, or cleaning up your neckline, these are always the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PHLY once again at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code PHLY at manscaped.com. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your little, hairy, or big leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped. All of my friends out there, don't bombard me. Don't bombard me. I don't have the hookup. I just have the simple hookup of manscaped.com. Use the code PHLY for 20% off. Everybody stay back. Stay back. I know it's a great deal. Stay back. Stay back.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Bagels & Co. Very different ad read. Bagels & Co. offers Brooklyn-style bagels made in Philly. Bagels & Co. have huge bagels. Biggest bagels in Philly with large variety, usually 15 to 20 different types to choose from daily, and they have seasonal bagels as well. Bagels & Co. has the largest cream cheese variety, 30 different flavors of cream cheese and smears, including local flavors like an Eagles cream cheese and, hopefully a 76ers one as well. And this is key, Bagels & Co. are an affordable brand. You get a lot of food for cheap, and in today's inflationary world, we think that's key. They debated raising their prices, but they want to be an everyday brand and not some high-end place you go to splurge on the weekends. They have a mom and pop feel, but cater to the everyday individual with a lot of repeat customers. And they have really good coffee, and it's not $7 a cup. Why go to a major chain and get a subpar product when you can come to them and get a more premium beverage at the same price point? For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
Our good friend Brandon Dowtin in the chat says, nice read, DG. Thank you, Brandon. We had to talk about something positive after a tough loss like that.
I will say, we do a lot of reads. I think that's the one you get into the most.
Have to,
Very
man.
passionate about
Have to. We have a great new partnership. They hooked us up, and we wanted to make sure we hook everybody else. Go again, check out manscaped.com, PHLY, use code PHLY for 20%
You're even getting a little
off.
extra.
Yes, get a little extra. Yeah. Get a little extra with the shaving. There you go.
So
real fast, let me say this.
Let
me say this one, because a good friend, Yo Brad on Twitter, jumped in and says, that's an understatement when she was talking about something, and it says, is Tobias trying to sabotage this team from within? And we use one of our shows where he had a poor game, and we put it up there, sabotage. And that's, we're not the only ones to feel that way. Not the only ones. Yeah,
I mean, look, he's clearly not trying to sabotage a team.
He's not.
He's not trying to sabotage his next contract either. He's just so far in his head right now that once something doesn't go right for him, he doesn't know how to respond, which is wild. He's a 31-year-old player. He's had a lot of success in the league, and he is regressing by the day. But no, look, he wants to do better. I'm sure of it. He's just lost.
He's lost. Let's get to some of our super chats. We'll get to some of your chats in there. We'll wait for Kyle right now, see what he has to say about this one. I was there with Kyle leaving. I said to Kyle before we left, look pretty good. They better not blow this one.
Yeah.
Well, damn it, here we are.
I mean, it got even better in the third quarter. It looked really good.
It got even better in the third quarter. Sure did. Let's start things off with Real Time says, thank goodness Embiid doesn't want to leave Philly.
Yeah. There are some people who think this team is better to watch without Joel. I don't know which games they're watching, but I don't.
They miss Maxey, don't they?
Well, yeah, that is a key difference. But even still, like this, Joel Embiid's on the floor without Maxey. They win this game, going away very easily. Yeah, no, it's you should. There's a lot of people who should thank Joel Embiid for being drafted by the Sixers and being healthy. Daryl Morey should thank Joel Embiid. Josh Harris should really thank Joel Embiid for keeping this franchise relevant, even through constant turmoil. Sixers have done a lot of things wrong, but they've done one thing very right, and that's always key to remember, because it could be a lot worse.
Could be a lot worse for sure.
Honestly, with how many mistakes they have made here over the last decade, it probably should be worse. But it really just goes to show you that you hit one home run and it can make paper over many swings and misses. Many.
That guy is good. To your point, that guy is really good. Just real fast, before we get to our next one, and I wanted to look at the schedule. When he left, we remember the part where they were 28-13 at one point on the season. They were 23-13, and they moved all the way up to 28-13 on the season, 29-13, as I look at things here. But when he left that Golden State game, they were 29-17 on the season, and they beat Utah after Maxey went nuts in that game for 51. But since then, Derek, we've seen just the crazy decline that they have. To be where they are right now with 35-27, I think they are, to look at 30-17 after that Utah game, not great.
Yeah.
Not great. All right, let's get to our next super chat here as we check in with Davon stepping in here. Rick wasn't it. Batum can't stay in front of a parked car.
That's harsh.
And Captain Crumble here to save the day, blowing open layups and taking cap space far and wide. So, no, Ricky did get the nod, as we talked about in the game for Dallas. We want to see him a little bit more, and certainly in Brooklyn. He got the nod early in the first half. He wasn't good. Nope. Got to the free throw line, missed his 2 free throws. Again, he's not a great free throw shooter, but we've seen him make free throws where I'm surprised he didn't at least
bad, though. What's he shooting at on the season? Hold on, keep talking.
I would say somewhere around 65-70%, maybe.
I think it's higher than that.
Maybe? Okay. Keep going. All right, but even with that, he did split a pair later on when he got to the basket, but he missed a three-pointer.
76% coming in tonight.
76%. So, look, he's still figuring it out, still learning. I think we both still believe that he deserves that contract because of what he has shown us. And there's something there where Nick Nurse is not comfortable giving him the minutes that he's not. If he would have played much better, he probably would have gotten some more extended minutes. But that said, Ricky was not great here tonight. Batum can't stay in front of a parked car. We already knew he was an older player. We have also talked about how important he is when one particular player is out there on the floor, and that's Joel Embiid. And he was really good against Dallas because they put him in the middle of that zone. They had him as the screen man where he would roll there and he would roll to the middle of the floor and make the right pass to get to whoever he needed to, whether it was someone cutting along the baseline for a layup or a dunk opportunity or finding someone around the perimeter to hit and knock down a shot. But we also, again, know that the guy is a 35-year-old player at this stage of his career. His value is certainly with Maxey and Embiid out there on the floor when you have your full complement of players. That's where he's the best for this basketball team.
Yeah. And look, first of all, and Ricky, like, I don't want to get on him too much. When you're playing like 2 stints of 4 or 5 minutes, it's hard to really get into a rhythm, especially when you know if you don't play well, you're going to get off the floor. For Batum, look, I think he made a lot more sense when Embiid was out there, not just offensively, but defensively too. And when players like Melton were out there, like other capable defenders, when he is out there with Campaign and Buddy Hield, which might be the worst defensive backcourt in the league, and they showed that throughout the first quarter, he is not nearly good enough to be a stopper, and his lack of foot speed becomes overexposed. Like I said, when he is maybe your 4th best defender, then you go, all right, well, at least he knows where to be. He makes good decisions. He digs down when he should dig down. He communicates. He has some value. But when, like I said, you're relying on him to be more than he's capable of at this stage of his career. And when everyone else out there is tragic defensively, he's going to look really, really bad as well. And it's one thing where he is as much of an Embiid player as anyone on him and Buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe rely on Embiid more than anyone. And I think there's going to be a lot of frustration. And in part because, I thought last night one of our takeaways was he looked better physically than he had since coming back from that injury. Tonight, I thought he looked a step slower.
Second night of a back-to-back.
Second night of back-to-back, player in his mid-30s. I don't want to freak out because I still think his value is so much derived off of just his skill sets meshed with Joel Embiid's skill sets, and Joel Embiid's skill sets cover up some of his deficiencies. But yeah, he has not been, outside of last night, he has not been good in quite a while.
No, he has not.
He did have a nice bounce pass. I really appreciated that bounce pass to, I think it was Buddy that he had in the first half. That was a good moment. He had that putback dunk, which didn't exactly get up all that high, but he timed it well. That was fun.
And that was in the fourth quarter when they needed it. They needed that. Absolutely. The Buddy Hield part, before we get back to the Super Chats, but the Buddy Hield part, again, man, we know who he relies on, but we've also seen him play better than 6 for 17 tonight. He did get up 7 3-pointers, made 3. One of them really late. He had 15 points with 3 assists, 5 boards, 1 block shot, 3 steals, and 1 turnover. But maybe needed a little bit more from him tonight, especially in the fourth quarter when we talk about missing layups. He had 2 that I remember. One going to the basket, Tobias cleaned that one up, but another where he had a chance to lefty, or actually 3. There were 2 back-to-back where I thought they were makeable layups, and he just flat out blew them.
Yep. No, he struggled tonight for sure. And again, sort of like last night, it wasn't the shot. It was everything inside of the arc.
Because you talk about the 7 3-pointers, you want them to go up. 3 for 7. We're talking about 3-pointers, so they're not easy things to make. But everything
3 for
else,
7 is fine.
Yeah.
My only complaint is maybe could have gotten a couple more, but then again, there's nobody with any kind of gravity. Nobody that the defense is really keying in on, so it's harder for him to free himself up on the perimeter. No, the 3-point attempts are fine. And again, this is partly
it's the 3 for 10.
Yeah, inside the arc. And again, I think some people saw the first 4 games and thought they were getting more than they were. If he was capable of that on a regular basis, he wouldn't have been available for what you got for him. So I think part of this is just regression back. Part of it's just a slump. Part of it is that there's so few players that you have to really worry about that you're able to, like, those drives become a little bit tougher because you're willing to leave the Sixers perimeter shooters because most of them can't really shoot. There's just nobody. You're not worried about a dump-off pass like you would be if Embiid was in the game. There's a whole bunch of reasons why for someone like Buddy, and I think Buddy's utility is going to become a little bit like, he is a good cutter. He's capable with the ball in his hands, but his real utility is he's able to do all of that, move without the ball, cut to the basket, free himself on the perimeter, and it's just tougher to do that when there's not anybody drawing the defense's attention. There's nobody on the floor right now that 3 or 4 of the opponent's defenders have their eyes on at all times. That changes when Embiid and Maxey are in the game. I think, like I said, I said this last night, he's the kind of player when your stars are out, he probably looks worse. And you freak out a little more than you have to. I think he'll be fine.
Sure.
But you need to get that big guy back.
Especially in the fourth quarter tonight, you needed him 1 for 6 1 for 2 from 3, 0 for 4 from inside. And we talked about 3 layups that he missed. Yes, Tobias Harris cleaned up one of them, but he missed 3 layups there in that fourth quarter. And we will get to the rest of our Super Chats, but first have to also tell you about another great sponsor that we've had here for quite a while and doing, bang-up job here as part of our show here, and a new sponsor.
Yep. If you're like me, you've probably got a long list of house projects that you've been putting off until spring gets here and the weather gets better. Well, don't look now, but spring is right around the corner. And if one of those projects includes putting new floors in your home, Empire Today has you covered. With Empire Today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And Empire Today has a virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might talk to someone today who was working as in plumbing yesterday. Flooring is all Empire Today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They also service their own warranties. So with Empire Today, you won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
And if you have not lost faith in your team and you still want to go to the games, they do have a home game. Philadelphia does. The basketball team, that will be on Friday as they host the Western Conference squad from New Orleans. And if you want tickets to that, you're like, let me sit back, let me calm down a little bit. I may not buy them tonight. I may not buy them tomorrow. But you can get last-minute deals with our great friends from Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy those tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater, and more near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you'll have at that particular event. If, again, it is the basketball team, make sure you do that for Friday. Maybe it's the hockey team. I was just recently talking to someone about the hockey team, and they said, hey, what do you think about tickets to the hockey squad? Where should I sit? Well, I told them, you know what? Head over to our friends from Game Time. You get flash deals on last-minute tickets. You get images of those seat views to see where the puck is. You want to say, hey, I want a good seat here for looking at the ice, the entirety of the ice, so I can follow the puck and see where it's going from side to side, full length of the ice. Images of the seat views right there on your app with Game Time. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Hey, those images of the seat views always come in handy. Recently talked about a show my daughters wanted to go to, a comedy show that I was recently talking to a friend about for maybe them to attend. You get those images, and when you do, you get the seat before you buy. You know exactly what to expect when you arrive to the place of the venue to watch that show. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Tickets also make great holiday gifts, as we've talked about in the past, and certainly birthday gifts also for your friend or family. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's jump back into the Super Chats. And speaking about the Philadelphia 76ers loss to the Memphis Grizzlies tonight at home by a final score 115-109. We go back to Davon and check in with what Davon has to say on this particular one about the Sixers. All right. Pistons fan now. Right now, Pistons fan. And at least then I'll never be heartbroken, when you're a Pistons fan. All right, Davon, go enjoy that basketball team if you want. They're right there with the Washington Wizards trying to fight for the worst record in the NBA. They stink, and that's that. Yeah. Monty Williams getting paid a lot of money.
If that's how you want to cope, go be a fan of tragic basketball. And look, there's some people who will swear that not having any stakes associated with the games make watching the sport a little bit easier.
Sure.
Certainly a little less stressful, but I will just keep going back to, when I'll never forget 2008 in the Phillies. And that euphoria is worth everything that we go through. And you can go back to the Eagles a couple years ago. It's painful. It sucks. But it really does make the victories even more worthwhile.
I saw something earlier where Buster Olney from ESPN saying that he thought the Phillies were going to represent the National League in the World Series. What do you think about that?
I mean, it could. They could.
Good team.
Problem with baseball is once you get in playoffs, it's all luck. You
saw what happened against Arizona.
That's what makes baseball great. Like once you get in the playoffs, you have however many teams are in the playoffs, you have a 1 in that chance of making the playoffs, and they can change the rules all they want. It is tough to. That's always why I've always been a proponent of fewer playoff teams in baseball, because I think the regular season should matter more. Because once you get in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot. So give me a 1 in 8 chance instead of, but it creates great theater. So it's a give and take. But
we do have a good baseball team here in town. We'll see what happens there. Babajide checking in with a back-to-back Super Chats, starting off with Jake LaRavia. He cooked Tobias Harris. I'm disgusted. He follows up and says Tobias couldn't outshine G-Leaguers. I'm convinced he will get cooked at your local gym. Derek, you go to a local gym. You still play. I still play. You hear about what Zach does with his league from the PHLY Eagles. Tobias Harris, I think he would cook all of us in the local gym.
Yeah,
but these G-Leaguers that you're talking about, Babajide, they are hungry, and they were not afraid of Tobias Harris.
No, and that's
the
worrying.
problem.
That's worrying, yeah.
It's part of the problem.
Did you give Tobias a nickname, The Problem?
That's a good one. Did we stick with that one now?
No.
The problem?
Because it could be interpreted as being a positive, and we don't need anyone doing that.
I think when we say the problem, Tobias the problem Harris, I think people would know which side we're on.
Philly would definitely know, yeah.
100%. All right, and finally with our Super Chats, our good buddy Vince Pellegrini here. If this was Doc Rivers, we would have been blaming him for this loss, maybe even the Brooklyn loss. When is the horrible fourth quarter performance and collapse going to come down on one Nick Nurse?
Maybe when he doesn't have 80% of his starting lineup out. Look, and he brings up Doc Rivers. I think Doc largely got the benefit of the doubt in his first year here. I think most coaches do. I think Nick will get that benefit as well. You need to sort of see a pattern before you really form a conclusion on a coach. And part of the reason you need to see a pattern is because you run into blocks of a season where you're like this and you're starting Buddy Hield and campaign with trying to decide between Paul Reed and Mo Bamba as your center, and it's just tough to evaluate. And do I think Nick Nurse is pulling all the right strings right now? No, of course not. But it's also not completely obvious what those right strings are, and that's why he is going to get the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yep. A lot of people in here, man, in the chat. And first of all, Coach Lowell Ricketts, our good friend, says he'll take me over Tobias right now. Thank you, Coach. Thanks for having my back and the confidence in me to get out there on the floor, even with the recovering Achilles. A couple of months, about 7 months in, still, working through it. I appreciate that. Yes, I will knock down those shots when they swing the ball to me. Short corner threes right now for me. I'll take those, no question about it. And I'll knock those down at a good clip. Yes, Coach, thank you. But also, I'm seeing, you mentioned yesterday, Money Mar in the chat after last night's loss. The boy RJ. Mm-hmm. But I've seen so far RJ a couple of times saying, even in caps, don't complain now, for a lot of Sixer fans in the chat. I don't know what's going on in there because we're going back and forth and we're engaging here. And of course, certainly with our Super Chat and talking about what we need to with this basketball team. But I'm guessing a lot of people are making excuses for this one. But look, like you said, no Tyrese Maxey and no Joel Embiid. And this clearly shows the importance of those two players in particular. But then you go down the line. No Kyle Lowry tonight, rest, right? Load management. No DeAnthony Melton, which we know that's a big problem because this could also stretch to the postseason with this one because of the back issue that he is dealing with at the moment. This is why you talk about Joel Embiid with the way he was playing and the way the team was performing with the record being in the top 3 for the most part of the time that he was healthy and able to play. And then even right now, when you're looking at Tyrese Maxey, where I think the last time I looked, he was the leader for most improved player. And it wasn't just most improved playing on a bad team, playing on the top 3 team that was a Eastern Conference contender and maybe even a title contender.
Yeah. And a couple of points since you brought up D'Anthony. He has begun an offloading. This was an update from the Sixers before the game. He will be reevaluated in approximately 2 weeks, so he's not anywhere close to returning. Robert Covington, he is progressing in his rehab with the goal of doing on-court activities in the next 7 to 10 days, and will be reevaluated in approximately a week. So if on your bingo card you had Robert Covington potentially coming back before D'Anthony Melton, that was not something I think any of us thought a month ago.
Well, he did come back before.
That's true. For 3 games, was it?
He just happened, he just happened to go out again. Not good. Not good. Man. Marty Bones asked if Mikal is traded here somehow, some way, do I get a run, i.e. Thanasis, like Giannis
That's
does?
some good money. Look, if you left us for a NBA minimum contract, of course I would.
Hey, I will come on this show anytime you need me for some interviews and content, all of that. One-on-ones, man.
I don't know what you're making, but I'm guessing it's not an NBA minimum contract. So, yeah, I would completely understand if you
and the NBA minimum is good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Even for a guy stepping in for my first contract. No doubt about it. But to have Robert Covington maybe back whenever he does return, that will be certainly helpful for the 76ers. But it's not good enough because he's going to have to get back in basketball shape. He hasn't played a basketball game in a long time, and they're going to be doing so against some very, very good basketball teams if and when Robert Covington's comebacks during that stretch that I read out a little bit earlier, where you have a 4-game West Coast trip against both LA teams, Phoenix and Sacramento. You have Miami mixed in there, New York twice. All of those teams that we laid out. It's going to be a tough stretch, and to get those guys back potentially, sure, it will be helpful to get Robert Covington back in the Sixers lineup, helping out with the defense, the wing position, et cetera. But it's not enough when you don't have D'Anthony Melton, and the question again of whenever Joel Embiid does maybe come back.
Now you're getting screwed a little bit here because it's based on years of experience, not age. So you only start off at $1.12 million, and that would be
bad.
Prorated. But for next season, you figure that will be bumped up a little bit as a cap rise. That would be like 1.3.
Plus, if we're talking about the a la Thanasis part, I am never coming back to work. I'm not rushing to work back here because as long as my cousin is on the team, I have a roster spot and some money.
But if you just had 1 year of experience, that contract would bump up by 50%. So you're really getting I feel like for your age, you should get a couple of years of service time just grandfathered in. But what are you gonna do?
Look, man, $1 million a year for however long he's on this roster, I'll take it. Just give me 2 years, I'll be fine. I'll come back and do the show after that. But I'll do the show in season.
Okay.
Like Fletcher Cox was a part of the PHLY. I'll come on once a week, even on the road. We've got Bree. My laptop in the hotel room on the road. I will jump on it right on in there.
Get on that, Vince. I know you're watching. Make sure that you have Devon locked up, even if Mikal comes to Philly.
I'll sign the contract. No worries about that. All right, man. Some other things.
Look, they got 2 open roster spots, so what the heck?
And Ricky doesn't have one of those.
And there's a deadline coming up, so you can only have two open roster spots for so long. I forget how long it is, but they're coming up on a deadline where they have to sign someone. They have to have someone occupy that 14th roster spot, whether that is a buyout, someone who's bought out, whether that is converting Ricky. We'll see, but they will have to do something.
Is there a time frame also, as we see a lot of the two-way players converted into NBA contracts, is there a time frame to do that for a player like Ricky for playoff eligibility?
Just by the playoffs.
Okay, just as long as it's by the playoffs. All right, Jeff Dowtin, we talked about him last night, getting those backup minutes over Turk Smith. I can't speak for Derek and Kyle. I personally thought, hey, okay, you want a ball handler out there, but why is he getting the nod over Ricky? He got the nod over Ricky and Turk tonight as the ball handler. And boy, Derek, did he come in and perform very well with his stint. 23 minutes and 58 seconds, so just under 24 minutes. He had 10 points, 6 assists, 3 boards, and no turnovers. 4 for 7 from the floor, knocked down 2 of his 4 threes in terms of attempts. Didn't get to the free throw line, but I thought he was very patient. He didn't overdo things on the floor where he put himself in the position to turn the basketball over. And while he was out there on the floor, he was a plus 17. I don't really get into the plus minus because that can also be something that is a little misleading when the game is played out. But he was a plus 17. And when you look at that plus 17 when Jeff Dowtin was on the floor, if you watched it and you understand what he was doing, he was pretty good with the minutes out there, just under 24 minutes played.
Yeah, and he did, a lot of stuff. Look, the shot was there. He made... Was it just a 1-3? 2 threes?
2 threes, 2
Made,
for
I think,
4.
another pretty long jumper. He was cutting off ball. He was playing a little bit of defense, making the passes, making the reads. Some of that stuff, the shot especially, is not something he's historically been known for. You don't know how much that is going to translate going forward. But the other stuff, being active, cutting off ball, getting out in transition in the early offense, I liked what you saw. And this was a player who I think a lot of Raptors fans last year had some interest in. I think it makes sense to give him a little bit of a tryout here now that he is in Philly, especially when you're this short-handed, especially when you need any kind of ball handling that you can find. Yeah, he was good. And especially in that first quarter. Did all the points come in the first quarter? Or all in the first half?
First half.
Yeah.
In the second quarter off the bench, he had 5 of his 10. So he had 5 in the first 5.
But you got that boost from him, and that's why you thought, like, hey, maybe they can actually steal this game because you have him going off, because we're getting another good Kelly performance. You just thought maybe there's a chance that they will pull this one out.
And that's combining with Campaign, the other point guard. He has 16 with 4 assists. So you're looking at that. That's 26 points from your point guards. And to knock down, tonight, knocking down overall 4 of 10 from 3 between the two of them with the assist numbers that they had. That was pretty good from your point guard position. No,
I'm interested to see what he can do going forward. Like I said, the shot I'm skeptical of, and that's a big thing on this team. But right now, they just need somebody,
especially with Melton out
with
now,
a live dribble who can credibly defend at least a little bit. And I thought he gave you that right now.
Yeah, so he was good. So again, I apologize to Jeff Dowtin Jr. from last night complaining about not getting Ricky out there on the floor. Understood because of the point guard.
It wasn't personal. Like Ricky. We like the energy he brings.
Yeah, and you needed the energy at least for the game against Brooklyn, but game to game. So we'll see what Jeff Dowtin does. He played enough where I'm thinking, especially even with Kyle Lowry, if they have to call his number on Friday, they're going to call his number.
Yeah, look, it's like if I say I really enjoy doing shows with Devon, it's not that I don't enjoy doing shows with Kyle. I just really enjoy doing shows with Devon. That's sort of how it was with the Ricky and Dowtin debate. Yeah.
Sorry about that, man. Sorry about that. Kyle will be with us as soon as possible from the arena. Let's get to some more super chats that we do have here. The latest from our friend Liam, as we check in with Liam here, saying 1 to 100 of Nick Nurse as head coach so far. What's your rating of Nick Nurse? 1 to 100. It's a tough one because, again, you lose your franchise player, your MVP candidate.
Well, and it's also tough because if there's 2 things I'm looking for Nick to do. It's establish something that makes sense around Joel Embiid. Well, he's not here. And it's make the right adjustments in playoffs. Well, that's not here yet either. So right now you're just trying to sort of like steal games, and that's not really either it's important because you need the seeding, but that's not really the final exam. And, I think at various points they were playing over their head, but look, 1 to 100, 65, 70.
Maybe
I'm not going to go
70s.
crazy in either direction just because I don't think most of this is what we really need to see.
And as you look at how he has to tinker with the roster, yes, it's tough to say this tonight against the G Leaguers that the Memphis Grizzlies have. However, he still has the roster that he's running out there. And when you have Tobias Harris doing what he's doing, consistently inconsistent, or how he does things, then is that right there Nick Nurse's fault? No, it's not.
No, it's not. And if you're going to be down Embiid and Maxey, your coach is going to be as successful as your $40 million player and third best player is. And Tobias and his failures rest on Tobias himself. So it's a tough spot for sure. And like I said, if Doc's big strength was that he got a 12th seed to play like a 4 seed, okay, that's great. But that's not really what I care about. We will have a much better read on Nurse in the playoffs.
Let's head to the arena right now, check in with our third member of our team. That is Kyle Neubeck, as we get his thoughts on the Sixers falling 115-109. Kyle, when I left the arena, I looked at you. You dapped me up before I left. I said, Kyle, they look pretty good right now. They better not lose this game.
I was having some conversations before the game where there were people assuming, like, hey, they should definitely win this game tonight. And I was like, have you seen them play lately? And do you understand who is available? So, I'm sure you guys have gotten into the nitty gritty and ripped Tobias a new, what. But still doesn't suck any less that they lost that game. Like, these are games that these two games they lost, they're part of the quote unquote easy part of the schedule right now. They're gearing up for some much tougher games coming up. I know New York is banged up, but those are basically must wins against a team they've already guaranteed they can only split the season series with, and they're behind them in the Eastern Conference standings. You got Miami, you got both LA teams, you got Sacramento, you got Cleveland, you got Milwaukee. Like, even the Pelicans on Friday. The Pelicans are a solid playoff team right now, and best case scenario is you get Tyrese Maxey in his first game back from concussion protocol, and what does he have? So they got to stop the bleeding right now. I know they have some margin for error with the play-in and whatnot, but they just got to resemble a normal basketball team again.
I miss normal basketball so much. I miss real basketball.
Yeah, even with, as you said, trying to talk people down before the game started. When I left, they were up 8. When they started the fourth quarter, they were up 12 and looking pretty good. What did you see? Obviously, the 25% shooting and 1 for 7 from 3, but what stood out to you in the fourth quarter to have them outscored 34-16, and it wasn't even close in the frame?
Well, so here's the big problem that I see with this team right now. They don't have a lot of outs. Either they're going to win on offense or they're not going to win. Like, they don't have. And honestly, I wrote this in the recap. To me, the thing that stands out about that game is in one player, 2 players, one on each team. Jaren Jackson is inefficient and, doesn't have a lot of creative help around him, whatever. I think he ended up with 26, 28, something like that.
30.
On 30, okay. But on 10 for 25. So that was not, he missed a ton of shots. It's inefficient. But down the stretch of that game, killing them on the glass, and defensively was the most impactful player on the floor, right? Like, is flying around, blocking shots, protecting the rim. And you would say, I don't know where you'd put him in the Memphis hierarchy. He's one of the top 3 guys. It depends on how you feel on Bane, if he's 2 or 3. I'd probably say he's 3, but the defensive ceiling is obviously significant for Jaren Jackson. Philadelphia's number 3 guy. Couldn't get anything going on offense. Wasn't really interested in getting anything going on offense. And has no recourse on the other end of the floor. Like, there is no ability to make up for that. If he is not hitting shots and playing in the flow, as he likes to say, he doesn't go down on the other end of the floor and strap somebody. Like, he's not locking somebody down. He's not making a difference really as a rebounder. Like, I thought there were moments where he tried on the glass and frankly just got beaten to boards by other players who wanted it more than him. He only ends up with, by the end of the game, I'm looking at the box score, 7 rebounds. Like, what are you here for? What are you doing? Like, the other guy who's essentially not your counterpart, but like the you on another team who had to find a way to win, found a way to win. You were a passenger. This is a game that you should be the guy. So that's a microcosm of all their problems right now, right? Like, if Campaign's hitting shots, if Buddy Hield's hitting shots, great. That's helping them move toward a victory. But eventually the shots dry up. Eventually the game gets tougher and more physical. And the issues, like for Cam, he is a target for every single player on the other team to hunt as a defender on switches, on offensive rebounds, and what have you. Buddy's off-ball awareness is terrible. They're not a team that can get stops and, more importantly, finish the stop and get a rebound when it matters. So, if you shoot well, you're going to win, or you at least have a chance to win. if you don't, I don't know how this team can do anything consistently.
Yeah, I don't want to ask about Tobias because I can't. So the one guy who did play a semblance of defense, Paul Reed, was put back in the starting lineup. Did Nick talk about that sequence of events and that decision at all?
No, I mean, we mostly just talked about the fourth quarter and what
Right.
went wrong.
Makes
and
sense.
we did get into Tobias a little. I know you don't want to talk about him, but
No, I didn't say I want
to that.
That can be you and
You didn't
Devon.
want to
I'll just
ask
sit
about
here.
him. Yeah. I would say so. I specifically asked about Tobias, and you could kind of tell that Nick is just like, it was a diplomatic answer that was, if you translated it into what it actually means, was probably, what the hell do you want me to tell you?
I got nothing.
Yeah, like he was as nice about it as he can be, but I clearly didn't want to throw him under the bus and kind of just left it at that. It's not a whole lot to it.
I feel like there's a previous coach who might have said, like, that's a fair question, Kyle.
Yeah, and Brett would also eventually probably take that same approach. Like there was one bus throwing coach that I've covered. And
he's got to make
Brett
shots. Well, I mean, listen, man, on the plus side of things, Jeff Dowtin off the bench, specifically in the first half where he scored the 10 points, he grabbed some boards, had some assists. There was one play where he was coming at us on that end of the floor in the first half. He drew the defense as he penetrated and attacked the defense, and nice pass to Paul Reed, reverse layup to finish there. After last night, where I specifically had questions about his usage over Ricky Council, just in terms of the rotation, not for the purposes of why they were in the game, but tonight he really, really showed himself well in this game.
Yeah, I thought he made a difference on the defensive side of the ball at times too. Like, I think he had 3 steals, and Nurse actually said after the game that he thought he probably should have played him more, looking back on it. And maybe that, I don't know how much that changes the problems they had down the stretch, because yeah, they missed shots, but the offense wasn't like too terrible in terms of process. It was more that they got beaten up physically, and their guy who makes $40 million seemingly didn't have an interest in scoring the basketball. But I look, this was a much better performance for Dowtin.
Yeah,
made a good outlet pass to Kelly Oubre on when he got fouled. When he got fouled on that they challenged and overturned it. But a lot of like good hit ahead, quick decision type passes. Got some pull up threes to go down. So just overall, like a solid performance off the bench. And Oubre actually said, he was asked about him briefly at the podium after the game, and he said something like, I've been known about Jeff because he was cooking the whole East at the end of last year. So already had somewhat of a reputation, and obviously it helps to have the familiarity with Nurse, because kind of just walked right in and knew what he had to do from moment one.
What would you do? Just curiosity in a starting lineup. Because the perimeter defense, which you've touched on, is tragic. You're relying almost entirely on perimeter shooting going down. He's tried Kelly Oubre starting. He's tried, Bamba starting. He went back tonight with Reed and Batum. What's your overall thought?
Frankly, I would just abandon all hope of playing defense and just play fast the whole game. And that was actually, so he didn't say this in so many words. Cam Payne was the other guy who spoke at the podium tonight, and he sort of alluded to the idea of like, we just have to keep playing the same way. Like, I think there was definitely a portion of the second half where they were stuck in the mud and not playing with the tempo they need to play. Like, look, if you have this personnel and your best options to try to shore things up are like Nick Batum in his mid-30s, Ricky Council, who he struggled tonight and has been basically out of the rotation last few games, like, those are not real solutions to like make a team better. Like, could you try Batum as the small ball center and play like Batum and Harris and Ricky and Oubre and point guard? Yeah, maybe, but like, you're probably not stopping anybody there. So I think until they get Joel back, it's a team that's going to have to make their money by just scoring 1 billion points and hoping they can outscore the other team. And so that's going to be flying down the floor in transition. Like I thought Buddy Hield, I didn't think played well, but there were some moments tonight where you could see the urgency to get down the floor and like, all right, I'm going to fill a lane, get open, whatever, and then things open up from there. I thought their transition offense struggled at times in the second half, and that's part of why they got bogged down, because they just don't have enough half-court creation to consistently beat teams. So I know I'm not answering your question, Derek, but I think the answer to your question is there are no good options, right? Like, you play Mo Bamba, we all know what he offers. They tried KJ as a small ball guy tonight, and he's been okay in that role. Like, I don't think it's not really an indictment of him. They're playing a guy who's like 6'4" as a nominal big on offense, and then you go to the other end of the floor. What the fuck are you supposed to do? You're not going to be able to rebound and defend the rim at an adequate enough level against teams with like real personnel. So there are no good answers right now.
It'd be nice if Buddy, when he does get out in transition, as you talked about, a positive, to make the layup when he does that. That would be nice.
I would definitely advise them to make more shots. That'd be
Is this the worst layup shooting team you've ever seen?
And DeAnthony Melton isn't even playing.
That's what I mean. Between him, DeAnthony, Tobias, it's got to be up there.
That's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all. Well, Kyle, listen, man, make sure everybody go out there and read Kyle's recap again and check it out, because great work there. It looked like it was going in a good direction, but it changed. AllPHLY.com. Kyle Neubeck, the good, the bad, the ugly, for the recap. Kyle, thanks, man. Be safe getting home. Still raining a little bit out there, and we will see you tomorrow, 2:30. Right here on the show.
Will we ever see the sun again, fellas? I am not sure.
I don't know if you're talking about literally with the weather or as a metaphor for the Sixers, but it's fitting for both.
That's double entendre there, boys. Get home safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
You too. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Kyle Neubeck live from the arena. Again, allphly.com for the recap. And I'll answer that, I guess, for the you got to start Kyle Lowry, because at least with that,
I think when he's healthy,
run the team with him. You have to start him. That's the question is, who's the fifth? Tobias is going to start. Buddy Hield, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry. Who's the fifth? I still lean Paul Reed, but I understand where you go in the direction of what's the conversation of who is the starting five right now.
No, I think it's I said this from the moment that Nick put Bamba in the starting lineup. I'm like, I think this is less about Bamba and more about trying to light something under the other center.
And he got it.
And look,
Paul played well tonight.
Yeah, he took some jumpers that maybe not, if they don't go in, we're not looking at it quite as positively, but the hustle was there. Like that sequence in the second quarter where he dove on the floor for a floorboard, got the ball back, made a reverse layup. That's Paul Reed's game. As long as you're getting that out of him, you'll take a bad shot here and there. I think, like I said, I think Nick did that to light a fire under Paul Reed. And as long as there's a fire there, I think Paul Reed is going to be the starter. And he should be the starter because Mo Bamba is not particularly good at basketball. I do agree with you that I think Lowry should start. Not like, look, he's 37, but he's the best passer you have right now. And the second best is probably Batum. And that's, not great because neither of them are necessarily spring chickens and should be on the floor for 35 minutes per night. But he's might be like your third or fourth best rebounder, even though he's like 6 foot. And he's a reliable perimeter shooter still. And he has, I think, a little more left in the tank than maybe I thought when they traded for him. And when you add that to those attributes I just said, I do think the team plays better with him on the floor. But there's still a question of, especially with Maxey out, like how do you generate enough half-court offense to make it worthwhile and offset the defensive sieves you have on the perimeter? And it's been tough. It's been tough.
Campaign said playing the same way. When you build up this type of lead over a bad team, you can't abandon that. You have to play the same way. So when you're getting out on the open floor, finish.
Yeah.
When you're getting good looks at the basket in the half-court set because you work so hard, you have no room for error, finish. You have to do that and play in the same way, and you can't allow yourself to get bogged down in one-on-one situations because you do have a 12-point lead and think you have some wiggle room here to mess around and make some mistakes. And doing that, even when we talked about Paul Reed playing within himself, playing so well that he hit a couple of jump shots, but even when he hits a couple of jump shots, also understanding that, hey, while I do have a good look, my teammate over here has a better look. Let me give him the ball, maybe set that screen, And Jeff Dowtin is going to use me as a role man, and he has been looking for me. He's going to hit me with a pass. Buddy Hield, struggling still, is going to pass me the basketball.
Yeah.
You do those things where you don't get away from the brand of basketball that got you the 12-point lead against a team that you should, quite frankly, beat on your home floor tonight.
It's just wild, man. Like, I spent so many years saying, like, look, Tobias, he's not a willing enough shooter, really be a floor spacer. He struggles as a role player. He struggles as a fourth option offensively. But at least when you're down 60 points in your starting lineup, he will go out there and try to cook Luke Kennard. He's no longer trying to cook Luke Kennard. And I just don't know how you're supposed to win very many games, even against the hospital Grizzlies, when your MVP's out, your other All-Stars out, and your $40 million guy is just not in
You lost by
attendance.
6. You lost by 6.
It's so incredibly
You get his
frustrating.
output from last night, you win the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Easily.
Yeah. Yep. You win that basketball game. All right. One final super chat, and then we close things out for this episode, this post-game show. That's from Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats. Once again, we appreciate you sharing the donations all evening long. Quickly on Tobias, definitely saw Tobias Harris get cooked by Malik Wayans and Tyreke Evans in an open run back in 2019. That doesn't surprise me. In an open run, in an open gym, in that situation, that is their game compared to Tobias Harris in an open run. They are guards also, where they're going to have that basketball. And in that gym, they are just as good as everybody else. We know they're both former NBA players, one being a former Rookie of the Year and top 5 pick. And Tyreke Evans, Malik Wayans, legendary Philadelphia basketball player, did make it to the league, playing for not only the Sixers but the Clippers. In an open gym, absolutely, they will cook Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is going to cook too, but they're going to cook Tobias Harris or anybody else of the other 7 players in that run. Yes. So, yeah, man. Two good Philadelphia. Philadelphia area players with Evans and Malik Wayans. All right, that's going to do it for us in this one. Another frustrating one, everybody. The collapse in the fourth quarter, losing that fourth quarter by 18 points after being up 12 going into that, to only generate in this game in the fourth quarter 16 points, shooting 25% from the floor and 1 for 7 from 3. Not a winning recipe for a basketball team that needed, again, another victory out there on the floor. We'll be back tomorrow for our Thursday pod at 2:30, our normal start time, 2:30. Friday, we have a post game as the Pelicans come to town. And then Sunday, we're back at it as they take on the Knicks for the first of 2 in New York. We want to thank everybody for tuning in with us here tonight. And we have a lot of people to thank. Who do we start with?
We're going to start off with the super chats. We got Davon, a.k.a. Schoolboy Beats again. Appreciate you every day. Baba G-Day, Real Time, and our boy Vincent. So thank you to all of them. We also want to make sure we thank Front Running Fan Base, although, don't necessarily agree with the name, but you are active in the chat, so we appreciate you.
Always appreciate it.
Cannoli, AC Phila, Alex,
what
Remo
up, Cannoli?
K, Real Time, Jake M, John 17, Dave Ishmael, Guthrie, Illicit Traps, Brandon B, Gracie, Eugene, Neil.
What up, Gene?
Marty Bones, Noob.
Bones.
Where's Al? I didn't see Al
Al was
again
here.
today.
I thought
was
I saw
he?
Al.
Okay, I didn't see Al.
Yeah, Al was in there.
Well, if you're here, what up, Al?
Yeah, he's right there. 16 points the whole fourth quarter.
Oh.
That's not all on Harris, but part of it is, Al. Part of it is because he did shoot, even though we give you the what, Al, in the fourth quarter, Tobias Harris shot 1 for 3 in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you need way more than that. Marty Bones, Noob, Martian Lynch, Coach Ulrich.
What up, Coach?
Liam Stevens, A.A. Ron, Prophet, Brian Knight, Jay the Jungle. I guess, should we mention? Nah. If you're in here trolling, we're not going to mention it.
We're in there, though.
You know who we're talking about, though.
What up, y'all? Even though you're trolling. What up, Mar and RJ? We appreciate everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show. Eugene already rang that bell. We appreciate it. When you do, you get the alert and you get the bell icon. I left the bell, folks. I was so ticked off rushing in here. I left the bell right there on the table outside of the studio. It's literally right there. And we could run out there and get it in 5 seconds and come right back. But we're not going to do that. We're just simply going to do like we did before we had the bell. Ding. Thank you to everybody for checking in. We appreciate, of course, Bree for doing a great job producing. For Kyle and Derek, I'm Devon. We'll be back tomorrow on Thursday for our 2:30 show. Sixers fall one more time, 115-109. They have now lost 2 straight. They are 35-27. And if you need to, make sure you go see our friends at Manscaped because it's getting warm out, folks. Want to make sure you're all good in those lower regions. Have a good night.
We all silly like the mayor.